So, good morning, happy Friday. It's March 20th, 2020, 2020, and we are in the middle of the zombie apocalypse.
It is.
So, it's funny, it's like the things we normally have taken for granted, like just the simple ability to get basic supplies from the grocery store. And now it's like a whole thing. I was online this morning. I had an order sitting in my Ralph's pickup, order online, and I've been trying for days now to get a pickup window, but there's none. So then I'm like, I doubted it would, yield any meaningful results, but I said, let me change to delivery. Surprisingly, delivery, there are options available. Not only that, but you can check off the checkbox that said that it's okay to leave the stuff at the door. So, and for that, I was able to get a delivery time of next Wednesday. So I'm like, well, I'll take what I can get, Luckily, we have the supplies that we need to last us for at least that long. So I think
I went to Costco at 7:15 yesterday morning. Had to stand in line for about a half hour. It was all the way around the building, but when I got out at 9:15, the line was gone. But also, the toilet paper was gone too. So,
yeah, that's the thing.
Imagine the old people's shop first in Florida, but that's everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the supply chain is still there, but they stock up the shelves first thing in the morning, and then people are lined up outside, so the stock just goes within, a few hours.
It kind of reminded me of the old gas lines from the 70s when I was trying to get gas.
Yes. I remember that.
That's totally how it feels.
I used to go to Massachusetts because I would never remember to get my gas on the right day, so I had to cross the border. Don't say anything. Put your mask back on.
I heard this story before. We already worked the math on this one.
So I have a friend actually over here, and we're not really that far from the border of Mexico, and he was telling me last night he might make a run to Mexico to get a bunch of supplies.
Get toilet paper.
By the way, I'm just because some people are giving some background noise, so I'm going to mute everybody, and then feel free to unmute if you want to share something. Because we're talking about more on tools for working remotely. I did the webinar on Wednesday. I made sure I got the recording up right away because I know a lot of people said they were taking notes, and I said instead of taking notes, just pay attention. You can watch the replay and take notes then. This way it's a bit more focused. And what I did on Wednesday was I went very wide and covered a wide range of topics. In fact, what I've started to do, I did update the post on the website with my notes that I had in Dynalist. So now when you go on the site, you'll be able to see the whole entire outline that I was going off of when I did that webinar. But another thing I've begun to do, and I had showed you guys a glimpse of this during that webinar, is I'm using the brain, and I'm going to start building a knowledge base for remote work, right? The goal is to build a knowledge base for myself and others who want to work remotely. And so I've started to lay out the major topics that I covered on Wednesday, things like where to find work. And this one I didn't discuss, by the way, but this is an interesting one. I was going through some old notes of mine, and I'm going to show you where I stumbled on this, because I was going through stuff last night preparing for what I mainly want to focus on today, which is going to be G Suite and Google+. But I went into Google Keep, and because I was thinking I want to mention something about Google Keep, and I found a note I had made about this. It's called HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. And I learned about this in an article that I read, that as a small business owner, especially right now when we're looking for ways to try and drum up business for ourselves, we want to keep business coming in. So the suggestion from this article I read, and you can see it on my screen now, is that you can reach out to reporters through this website and kind of put yourself out there and let them know, hey, I'm a business owner. This is what I do. And, if you convince some reporter that you have knowledge that would be useful to their readers, or their viewers or whatever it might be, then they might be interested in writing an article about who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, right? So it was suggested, I forget usually I'm better about making notes about this kind of thing, but it was an article I'd read a while back that was suggesting this as an option for trying to, develop a network with reporters who might be interested in reporting on you and your business and what you do, even if locally. So I thought this was a cool idea. And with the brain, as I showed you on Wednesday, you can actually put the URL of something. Sure, I'll accept your cookies. So you can put the URL. So right here in this knowledge base, and I'm going to make this available. There's a public link I can share with you so that you can start. I want to build it out some more, but you can start to browse around it, and I'll have, of course, all the links and everything so that you can, so that you can use this as a tool for, building your remote business. I know a lot of us here already have that, but the more I could do to provide these resources, the more I plan to keep doing. For two reasons. The obvious, obviously, just to be useful. And the other reason is because, frankly, it's just fun for me to do this kind of stuff. So that's just a quick little something on the brain. I'll go back to the home thought here. Well, the brain, and specifically how I'm going to use it to build this resource. And of course, I welcome, as always, your suggestions. So that's just a quick little thing on that. And I just want to check the chat because I saw the chat, and as usual, the chat was buried somewhere behind my other screens. So Matthew says, I've also been working on the following website for businesses to list their services, shareyour.business. That's right. I saw you post this thing about this yesterday. So Matthew, do you want to share real quick and show us, can you show us anything on that yet? Or is it ready for prime time?
Yeah, it's close enough. I mean, the whole point and intention of it is good to go. So I didn't have it pulled up, so give me a second here to do that.
Sure. And so this is for businesses who are obviously still open, and it's a way for us to patronize those businesses to help support them right now.
Exactly right. There's no cost to doing this. This is purely just, it started off as an idea for local, but there's no reason it has to be local in my mind. Because it's local to somebody else that's on this thing, right? So I've been putting this together, just trying to get everything. It's now live to where people can do a sign up and they can register. The registration email that comes isn't perfect. You have to copy paste it back over, but I'll work on that today. And the concept is that restaurants, different categories of businesses that can be listed here. I'm open to cleaning that up and adding different fields. But I just want to be able to make it to where if you've got a local business, you can come in, you can post it. I'm adding additional fields for people to add. Basically, I'm going to have it to where people can choose, like with a restaurant, whether they can do pickup or special delivery, or if there's other special details about this time specifically. They can come in, list their site, put some extra details in, and go from there. The goal is just, we need to support local business as much as we can. So I want to motivate people to spend money locally, however possible. It is the best way to keep your local economy driving forward. And there's ways to do that while still socially distancing yourself is the goal.
Yeah. Intuit has been putting out a lot of content. I shared an article and by the way, for those of you who haven't caught this yet, I've renamed the group that was called Between Wall and Main Strategy Forum. It's now called Accounting Business Academy. So in case you had it bookmarked or anything, I also updated the URL. So just search Facebook for Accounting Business Academy, and you'll find the group, or search your groups. And I posted a link yesterday based on something Intuit shared with resources that will help us help our clients during this time. And then they also have been sending emails out to the members of the Trainer Writer Network about how they're going to be focusing that content on resources along the same lines. And one of the ideas, Matthew, I noticed when you were sharing your screen, was you had something about a hair salon there. And one of the ideas they suggested, which I thought was brilliant, is, obviously as a hair salon, you're not going to be able to stay open right now. You're not going to be able to invite people into your place. It's too risky. And it's probably also not smart to go make house calls for the same reason. But what they suggested that I thought was brilliant was you can send in, first of all, and it's interesting to me, I have actually a few friends who own hair salons, and I've been reaching out to them, and none of them have email addresses. And I'm like, you have to be collecting email addresses this day and age so you can stay in touch with your customers. But there's other ways. There's Facebook pages, there's Instagram. And what the suggestion was that they can send the word out, whether by email or social media, and offer for people to pay now, so that when things blow over and you can come into the place again, you can get sort of VIP status, because everybody's going to want to come in at once and they're not going to be able to accommodate everybody at once. So the idea is sign up now and pay, and you'll get VIP, you'll get first dibs at coming in and making your appointment to get your hair done or whatever it is you want to do. And you can probably come up with a lot of other versions of that for different kinds of businesses. Just offer people, even in accounting and bookkeeping, a lot of people, I've already had a few clients reach out to me and say, hey, I need to suspend. I've had to shut my business down now for the next few weeks. And, so even along those lines, people are going to come back from that with a lot of catch-up work to do. Give them the ability to pay you to prioritize them for the catch-up when the time comes. So there's, again, you can translate that into a lot of different business models and offer, whatever the appropriate version of it is for your particular business or industry, or for your client's particular business or industry. So it's
So I was going to share, I saw this in LA, what we're suggesting, and this is super cool. They're called restaurant bonds. And so you can actually pay in $80 and you get $100 value in 3 months time or something like that. So, I mean, that may be hard for some businesses to track, but it was really just trying to find creative ways to engage people so they can get cash up front now. And of course, there may be a risk associated with the restaurant not being in business, but it's just another creative way to think about setting something up.
Right. And I immediately think, okay, so we're gonna have to do the accounting on that, right? So we're gonna credit $100 in a liability because that's what we owe out in services for that, right? And we're going to debit $20 for some kind of a promotional allowance, right? And then the other $80 is going to be the actual, what do you call it? The actual
a gift certificate.
Yes.
It's like putting a gift certificate up.
Exactly. So the money we're gonna owe them, the $80 is gonna be the debit to cash. I don't know why I couldn't put that together in my head. So we're debiting cash $80. We're crediting some kind of a sales allowance for $20, and we're crediting a liability for $100. So it all balances somehow. Or we're debiting a sales allowance. Sorry. Anyway, I can't think straight, and I've had 2 cups of coffee already. But you get the point.
My really good friend in Ojai has a dance studio and movement studio, and they had to close down, but like literally within 3 days, she had her whole website set up to book online classes, and she's doing it by Zoom, and she's going to save the recordings. And like literally in 3 days, she did it and got it put on. And she is now doing a live Facebook.
Wait, and
live.
what kind of business was she?
It's a dance studio.
Oh, okay.
Dance
Yeah.
movement. So she is on Facebook Live having a streaming, and she's really just trying now, asking us all to share so we can get people to sign up anywhere to take the classes online. So that like she's like expanded her business from like Ojai and Ventura to the world.
Right.
And literally in 3 or 4 days, she got it done. So it's possible, but she's pretty tech savvy. But you can, that's part of what I'm saying. Like there are these tools that are available for people to be able to try to transform their business into an online business in a different way. And it really is actually like a whole new way of interacting, and people are super excited because they're at home and they're fun because you're coming together on Zoom. On Facebook Live, it's going to be a little different, but the normal classes are done over Zoom. And I've done them before, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm hoping that this is going to help her at least, keep herself like at least liquid through this process.
Yeah.
So I'm
And it
putting
goes
it out
back
there in case anybody has any other clients that might fall in that category.
Yeah. And it goes back to what Gina said earlier. People think they have nothing better to do than go shopping. What a great way to spend your time while you are kind of locked up at home is exercise, right? We're all going to need it. We can't go to the gym. We're sitting around, trying to figure out what the next meal is going to be. Like always, I have a friend who shared that, he's already just, stuffing his face because he has nothing else to do while he's sitting at home. Funny thing for me is I always eat healthier when I'm at home. So my blood sugar is the best it's been in a really long time. And I can tell I'm actually starting to lose weight because, my wife is an amazing cook and she cooks very healthy stuff. And so anyway, there could be silver lining in this.
Another tip I wanted to share with everybody that's just transitioning to doing this work from home, there's a reason I have a tie on today, right? If you're not used to working from home, get dressed up for work. Okay, it will not only make you feel better, but it's going to get you on point and ready for work. So take that little extra time. I mean, it may be shorts on bottom and dress on top or whatever, but if you do those couple little things, it makes all the difference. And when you're on the phone with people, stand up if you can. From home, it makes a difference. You'll just notice your inflection, your tone, all those things come across better It'll just help you mentally feel better throughout all
Yeah.
of it.
I'm assuming we all have something like this, some kind of a Bluetooth headset, so you can just turn this on. I do that now when I get on the phone. Even on a Zoom, you can do your Zoom from your mobile and use your headset so you can walk around, right? Anyway, we're almost halfway into the hour and we haven't even talked about Google yet, so I want to get into that. Not that it wasn't good stuff, but I just want to make sure people get what they came for. So let's talk. So one of the questions, by the way, and I thought I saw her join and I haven't heard from her, Vanessa Vasquez, if you can, unmute, say hello. I want to talk about your question first and foremost, because a few people during registration asked questions, and I thought Vanessa's was an especially good one. They were all good.
Hi everyone.
There she
I
is.
am not showing my camera. I am not like Matthew all over. I work in pajamas and I have my pajamas and I'm gonna show myself.
Fair enough.
But I'm very excited to be here today. I was curious about what everybody has to say. We're gonna be in the Tutor Trainer Writer network, just presenting based on how we can help our customers, how we can help our clients and the community, and I'm very excited to be in every single webinar out there that can give us feedback on how people are reacting. I'm very calm and collected. I have a lot of other things to worry about that the coronavirus, and as long as we take our precautions, we're going to be okay. We
Right.
just have to do everything that we haven't done because we have been so busy doing other things. We need to rebuild our websites, do things with products, develop products. We have a lot of different things that we can do than worried about the coronavirus. So, yes.
Yep. Very, very good points. And yeah, and like Kelly pointed out, talking about her friend, if you're tech savvy, like you can throw up something in 5 minutes. And I have some ideas I want to share actually along those lines too, as far as what we as accountants and bookkeepers can do to pivot and offer alternatives, especially for clients who may need to cut back because they can't afford to pay our normal fees. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit too. So Vanessa, your question specifically was, if I work alone, why is it better to pay for G Suite versus staying on the free Google account, right? And so the first answer, very quickly and simply, is plain and simple security. With G Suite, you get you get a lot of security, whereas with free Gmail, you don't. They're not going to offer that kind of security for free. With a paid G Suite account, you get HIPAA compliant security, you get AICPA compliant security, and a whole list of other types of security. If you're a sole practitioner and you don't have anybody you even collaborate with, that might be the only reason, but certainly a compelling one. Because beyond that, G Suite is especially useful when you need to collaborate with people. Although I suspect you need to, at the very least, or would want to, at the very least, collaborate with clients, right? So if you're sharing a Google Sheet with a client, again, with paid G Suite, yes, it's a lot more secure. With a free Gmail account, the data that you're sharing in that spreadsheet may not be under the same sort of level of security as what you get with a paid account. So that's the first answer that comes to my mind on that. And I want to I'm sorry?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just
Of
wanted
course.
to know because some people ask me that question. And I'm like, well, I just have G Suite. That's it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the details on it.
Yeah, security is probably the main reason, especially if you're a sole practitioner like you. It becomes definitely a lot more obvious why when you have when you need to collaborate, right? Which again, even if you're a sole practitioner, like I said, you're probably needing to collaborate with clients. So the first thing I want to show you is when it comes to G Suite. Let me go to Services, Google. And I'm going to go into my admin console. So with G Suite, this is kind of the first difference you see when you first create your G Suite account is that you have this whole admin console, which doesn't exist on free Gmail, right? And in this admin console, I can easily add users. It is so easy to add users. All you need is an existing email address for them, and you can send them an email invite. And in 2 seconds, they can click over and set up their password, and boom, they have a Gmail account, or an email account rather, on your domain. And that's one of the things with G Suite, of course, is you're running things through your domain. It's not something at gmail.com. It's going to be Seth@nerdenterprises.com or Shannon@nerdenterprises.com. I can set anybody up with a nerdenterprises.com email simply by adding them here as a user. Okay. The next thing also that I use a lot from within this is the groups. So a lot of times we have different services that we want to use, and you need an email account used for that service, but you might want distribution to go to 2 or more people. A lot of times I've set up a group for clients where it's, client name @nerdenterprises.com, and I use that as the email address for the services that I've set up for that client. And then when something gets sent to that group, it redistributes to me and the bookkeeper who's working on that client, right? And in some cases, I might even include the client themselves in the distribution if it's necessary, appropriate, helpful, what have you. So groups is, and it's very easy to set up the groups. The only thing you have to do when you create a new group beyond the default settings is, and I'll just go into my accounting at Nerd Enterprises one. Let's see. Once you go in here, there's privacy settings. And of course, it's been a little while since I've set one of these up, so I can't remember where you go. Let me just create a new one real quick, because that's the easiest way to show you this. Back up here, and then create a group. So let's say I was doing some work with Matthew's company, and so I wanted to create Parkway, right? So I'll call it Parkway. I can skip the description. So it'll be parkway@nerdenterprises.com. I'm going to be the owner of the group. I'll click next. This is what you need to check off here is publish posts. Basically what that does is it allows for anybody from the general public to send an email to this group, and it'll be allowed through. Right? It's just this way. It just means external people can publish posts. And again, it's a roundabout way of saying they can email to the group, right? That's the only setting you need to be aware of. As soon as I click create group, that will go live. And of course you can test it, and now I can add members, right? So I can actually add Matthew as a member. Matthew, what email should I use?
mfulton@parkwaymail.com.
mfulton@parkwaymail.com. Okay. And there he is. He comes up because I've obviously emailed him before, and I'll add him to the group. Okay. And now I'm going to send you a test. I'm going to send an email to parkway@nerdenterprises.com, and let's see if Matthew doesn't get it. I'm just going to open up my email on another screen because obviously there could be confidential information in there. So let me go there and Gmail. And so again, when you're using G Suite, your email is done through the Gmail client, but of course you're sending from your own domain. So I'm just going to pull up the compose window here. And by the way, you can pop out your email window in Gmail so that I can do this. Okay, so I'm going to email Parkway at nerd. See, and it found it, actually. It came up. Let's try that again. Parkway. There it is, parkway@nerdenterprises.com. I've never emailed this before, but obviously because I'm in the G Suite world, it just brings everything together, and it found it. So
Nice.
Testing, torturing, tickling, ... So Matthew, I'm going to send this. Let me know if you get it. You should get it almost right away, if not right away.
Just for you, I even have my email pulled up.
Look at you. You're so nice. You're so good to me.
While you're waiting for that, I have a question, because in the group settings, Seth, when you were setting that up, there's a little radio button at the bottom that says something about allow people from outside my company, and that was not turned on. And I've had that. I don't know how familiar you are with that. Like when you sent something to Matthew and it was at nerdenterprises.com, but what if you send something to him at something outside of your company, and what permissions might be needed for that? I just mentioning that because sometimes that is an extra step that tricks people up.
Well, I'm not sure I follow the question, to be honest, but if I do understand correctly, if I'm sending something directly to Matthew, it's not touching that group. I'm just sending it from my own email to Matthew. If I send something through that group so that it gets redistributed, it's going to redistribute to anybody who I've included in that group, right?
If I think anyway that this happens sometimes sharing. Well, I'll let you finish this, but when you share like a file, a folder, or you're sharing a document, sometimes it comes up and says, this person isn't in your organization. Do you want to allow them? And they actually sometimes have to get permission even after
Right.
email.
That has nothing to do with the group thing, though. That's because you're sending a file, and that file is in your Google Drive area, and you haven't allowed the sharing for that file to be shared with the person you're sending it to.
I mean, I've even set it up to share, and they still have to get a permission sometimes. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, that has totally to do with the sharing permissions, though, right? Because if you just create a general share link where anybody with the link can view, you're still going to get that prompt, because what they're trying to do is make sure that you understand whether or not you want them to actually have edit rights to what you're about to send them.
It's not that either, Steph. But if you look in the group setting where you just added him to a group, at the bottom of the page, there's a little.
So where I added him, or where I created the group?
I think it's where you created the group.
All right, so let's do this. Let's go back into that area. I'll just go back and create a new group real quick.
Because I've never set a group up, so it was the first time I've seen that section.
All right, so testing this, because I already have a test group. And then I'm the owner. And these are also very easy to delete. I just have a hard time. So this was a setting I checked off.
At the bottom of that page, you see that allow members outside your organization?
Yeah, what this refers to, in my experience and understanding, is if I wanted people to be able to log in. Remember, this is not just an email distribution. It is, it's also a group where people within my organization could go log in to the group on the web and actually communicate that way. Remember, like Yahoo groups used to work. Okay. So what this is saying is people without a Nerd Enterprises email address can join the group. I don't need them to be able to join the group. I just need them to be able to publish posts to the group. That's the difference between checking this off here and clicking this. I don't need to allow members outside my organization. And as you saw, even without this turned on, I'm able to add Matthew, and Matthew has now confirmed that he did get the email, which I'll bring over to this screen, right? So he got it. So you do not need to turn this on, and I never do, because I don't need to do it, right?
Cool, thanks.
So yeah, that's the bottom line on that. And that's what I have tested thoroughly, is as long as I have this checked off, I can add whoever I want to the group, and then and they'll be able to get the emails, as you saw Matthew just did. And Matthew can certainly email to the group. One thing to be aware of, because I got tripped up on this in testing it, is if I'm in the group and I'm sending to the group, I'm not going to get a copy of it. It's sort of smart enough to know if I'm sending it, I don't need a copy of my own email that I've just sent. So if you want to test it.
Send you a copy.
What?
It did send me a copy also of my own.
It did?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get I didn't get a copy of my own. That's weird.
Yeah.
When you reply, of course, it'll show up in the thread of, for the conversation, right? But you're saying you got a separate, I don't know.
I thought it was good that way. Actually, I thought that was a positive thing.
One of the things I've always liked about Gmail is the way they thread conversations, right? And while we're here, and real quick, because I know some people will complain that they don't like this. I don't know why you wouldn't like this. It would drive me crazy not to be able to see all the emails around this conversation that in this case is called testing. Some people, I think, feel it's clunky to look at. But this little guy here, I've shown this to people and gotten a lot of oohs and ahs, because I guess people don't play around and click on things to see what they do. But this makes a huge difference, because when I click this and click it again, what it does is, and it's hard to get it from this because there's only 2 responses, but it will stack the emails in a very clear and easy to follow manner so that I can pick the email specifically in the thread that I want to then click on and expand, so I can focus on what's in that particular response in the thread, right? So
Elizabeth has a really good question in the chat, basically. So can outside vendors send their bills to this email address?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a big way that I've used this in many cases, is I'll set up an email address specifically for my clients' vendors to forward bills. and then I can, because then within the distribution, I can route it to Bilby's, I can route it to HubDoc, whatever, any of those services that give me an email address for forwarding, I can include that address in the group so that anything that gets sent to that group gets forwarded to the, the billing service that I'm using. So absolutely, that's a huge use case for this.
Yeah,
Right.
we do something somewhat similar using Teams, but this is exactly why we love doing this stuff, is having that group capability gives us the ability to interact with our clients, have a single place for everything, have a single stream of thought, if you will, by doing that. So it's great.
Yep.
I see where I got confused a little bit, Seth, is for some reason I didn't realize you were in Gmail. I thought you were in G Suite, like in the document section, and so I didn't realize this is the group function you're setting up for your email.
Well, again, the group uses an email component so that you can email to it. But the group is also designed so that members can come in and just participate in the group without necessarily having to do it through email. In other words, it gives you the choice of how you want people to be able to interact and use the group. I could create a group that's strictly for internal purposes that would, in some respects, maybe be a replacement for Slack, although Slack is a much better tool for that kind of thing, right?
Seth, another huge benefit of the G Suite setup onto it is devices, especially right now, everybody working remotely.
Yes.
You have the ability, you can register devices into your account and authorize them to work or not work. So,
right. So that's moving on to really the next piece of this, which is, yes, in fact, when you set up G Suite, as you go through the process, and obviously you're going to want to take time more than I have in this hour to go through all of this stuff, including security. You want to configure your security settings, definitely. But the devices part is you can enforce policies so that if somebody wants to log in from their mobile device, using your domain, basically you force them to sort of opt into your company policies, and they'll be given the choice where they can divide up their mobile device between what's their personal stuff and what stuff has to do with your domain. But the bottom line is, once I go in here, if somebody whose device has been registered through my G Suite admin panel calls me up and says, hey, I've got a problem, my phone was stolen, I can go in here and I can remotely wipe all the nerdenterprises.com related information from their phone. So anything that they have access to through my domain, the next time somebody tries to open up that phone, and if they can get past whatever security protocols are in place, whether it's fingerprint or other password access, the minute that device connects to the internet, if I've established that I want to remotely wipe that device, it will immediately wipe it the second it has the access to do it. So that it's a security protocol so that I can protect my company's information and the access that this would offer potentially to my client's information, such as through, let's say, because on the mobile I can access Google Drive with all my client documents, right? So it would wipe their ability to access any of that stuff.
Which I think is really important right now, because if you've got these different businesses that are kind of being forced into remote work real quick, you may have scenarios where your employees are using their own laptops right away. And if that's necessary, you could set this up, have it to where you have a controlled environment for the data that's business oriented. So when things return back to normal and you need to you want to get back to normal machines, you could cut and kill the stuff that was on any personal laptops at that point.
So I'm looking at the Facebook feed. Carmen is asking, how do I make the different Google people that I create for some clients' profiles show on my other computers? Some do, some don't. I would have to see it, Carmen, to understand why that's not working, because you're creating this at the Google level. So anywhere you log into your Google account, I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't be able to see everyone and everything. It's all because it's all one thing, one place. So it's maybe try refreshing your browser, clearing your browser history. Maybe it's a caching thing that's going on. I know that, and I don't know if you noticed, I didn't mention it, but when I first added Matthew to that group of mine, he didn't show there. I had to refresh the page and then he'll show up. And I think somewhere there's even a warning that G Suite gives you that lets you know that you have to refresh the page to see, and it might take a few minutes before their names show up. So maybe that's what you're experiencing. Again, something like that, hard to know for sure without actually remoting in with you and looking. So yes, device management is huge with G Suite. And again, it's very easy to do. Obviously, I didn't click in there because I have, people's names and things, so I'm not going to go in there. Definitely configure your security settings. There's reports. Of course, here's where I go to manage my billing and update cards. You can update information about your company. You can set up your roles. You can manage multiple domains within one G Suite account. You can migrate data, and it has really good support. So if I wanted to open up a support ticket, it's going to give me a code basically. And then when I call, I enter that code and I get someone on the phone almost immediately in most cases. And I get somebody who's not reading from some script who's going to tell me, okay, please reboot your computer. They're going to actually listen to my question and get me an answer quickly. I've had nothing but amazing experience with their support on this. By the way, Vanessa, going back to your question, that's another thing you absolutely do not get with free Gmail, right? So they have stellar support on this. Anytime I've had a problem, which has been rare, by the way, but when I have, I've gotten on with support and I've gotten the help I needed immediately. They can even remote in just like Intuit can do. Sometimes you think these big companies, wouldn't have that level of support, but these guys do. They can remote in and look at my screen to help me figure out what's going on. So
G Suite also has the building and resources area, which allows you to set up like a conference room, or even spaces of it, like office spaces that you can schedule to be rented out. So if you're in a area that is not necessarily shut down at this time, but you have to be socially distancing, you could even use that to schedule availability to use a conference room for meetings to keep things, the number of people there limited down. So if you have any kind of a limited resource, you could use that there.
Yep. There's lots of really cool things. And Shannon's reminding me in the chat, or no, not Shannon, Tony is reminding me in the chat to give my referral code. So since you mentioned it, and real quick, if you go to my site at new.nerdenterprises.com, just go to where it says apps, right in the top navigation here. And on this page, you will find affiliate links. In fact, the way I set it up, because it's Airtable, and Airtable just works better when it's not embedded in a web page, especially on a mobile device. So just click on this image here, and it will take you over to, these are all either companies that I work with and or affiliates, obviously all apps I love. And you will find the, I could have sworn I had my G Suite one in here. I will add my G Suite link today, because I do definitely have a G Suite affiliate thing. And by the way, you should sign up for that too if you decide that you find that you love G Suite and want to tell other people about it. I'm shocked that that's not in here. I could have sworn it is, but I will definitely get you that code. So, and if you don't see it for some reason and you want to go sign up, let me know. I will email it to you right away. It's just in another Airtable base that I have. So it'll take me 2 seconds to get you that. So yeah, the first thing to know when you're setting up G Suite for your company is what's in this admin panel. This is the first major thing that you have in G Suite that you don't have in a free Gmail account. Shannon posted the link to the Hero website. I'm just kind of going back through the chat. Okay, so this is the main control panel. It's funny because years ago I did a quick video on Google Sheets, just kind of comparing Google Sheets to Excel, and I got this snarky email from this guy who was clearly a Microsoft lover, and I mentioned I talked about it under the heading of G Suite, which at the time there was a plan for $5 per user per month, and so I made reference to that pricing. And maybe I didn't make it clear to him, or maybe he just didn't pay attention, that the price was for G Suite. And he sends me this snarky email saying $5 a month for a spreadsheet. And and then he listed all these things. And I said, no, $5 a month gets you all of this. And I wrote back to him and explained about the admin panel and how you have full domain management with G Suite. And I went on, and I just basically slammed the guy. And I never heard back from him again. But surprisingly, he didn't opt out of my email list, because this was based on an email that I had sent out. So anyway, that's the admin panel. Excuse me. After that, it's all the apps. And I love sharing this because I just think it speaks nicely to how nice it is once you're working with Google. And when you understand, it's like anything else. It's like if you love Apple products, then you want to work in the Apple world, because then everything's easy and accessible, right? Same idea here. So if I'm using G Suite and I'm going all in with Google's products, then I probably want to be using Chrome as my browser. And there's other reasons too. As we all know, Chrome, QuickBooks Online is built to work really well with Chrome. But what I love when it comes to G Suite and the documents is any new tab, I can type in the appropriate document form .new, and I'm up and running. So docs.new, and I'm in a new document instantly. And I can start taking notes or doing whatever I need to do with the document. Sheets.new, and I'm in a brand new Google Sheet, and I can start doing calculations and modeling my clients' businesses' burn rates to see how they're going to be able to weather this storm that we're in, right? If I want to do a new Google form, it's forms.new. And if I want to do Google Slides, it's slides.new. And Google Slides is really cool because it's basically PowerPoint, but in the cloud, and then you have all the benefits of using a tool like this that's living in the cloud, such as the ability to easily embed a PowerPoint presentation on a web page. I know you can do it with PowerPoint, but I know it's not nearly as easy as it is to do with this. And so that's one of the things I love is you have this suite of Office applications that all live natively in the Google world. And once you create one of these documents, nothing's saved really until you title the document. So if I do test, I can't type today, test Google Drive file stream, because that's the next thing I want to talk about for a few minutes here. So when I test Google Drive file stream, right, and let me just name the spreadsheet accordingly. Okay, we'll skip the form. We did a lot on forms in 97 and up this week, actually, and I think I covered it recently in Zoom. So now what I want to show you is, so all of these, when you click this option, it says move, but if you click on it, you can also click this dialog launcher that will open up the folder on the server side, on the Google side, right? So when you create a new document like this, it's just going to stick it in your root My Drive folder, right? And then you'll see where these all are, right? Google Drive file, here they all are, they show up. But the nice thing about Drive File Stream is that it's running in your browser and the files actually live on Google. They don't take up any space on your computer. Even if I put a Word document, even if I put a video file in there, once that video file syncs over from my local computer to Google servers, it is no longer on my computer, it is living on Google servers. What Drive File Stream does is it's like streaming the files from the web to your computer. So when I go in here, I can open up a document. Notice I have PDFs in here. I have image files. When I open it up, it will download it, of course, and put it in a temporary folder while I'm working with it. As soon as I close it, it's back up, and it doesn't even have to sync. It's the access is constant. It's streamed to the web, right? So that's really nice because you can put files in there and not worry about it taking up space on your computer. You have instant access to it from any device because it's in Google's cloud. But what I also want to make sure is very clear on this is if you go to the Windows Explorer side, which is where I am now, and of course this will work in your Mac Finder as well, same idea. If I go in here, and like I said, I had these test files that I created. If I want to put them in a different folder, you can do it from here, right? This is the comparable view in the browser. This is the comparable view in my Windows Explorer. I'll just go to the details view so you can see a little better what we're looking at. Okay, and I have in the Windows Explorer, as you can see, I have it organized by file type. So here's my test file for the Google Doc version. But what I want to show you is now if I press Control N while I'm in Windows Explorer, and let's say I just want to go into some sample folder. Let me move this off screen for a second. Actually, never mind. Let's just play for a second. I'll create a new folder and call it New Client Sample. So that way, let's say I want to move those files to this other folder. I can simply click and drag. Right, where are my other ones? Where's my Google Sheets ones? Sheets. There's slides. I can drag that over. there's the other format, the slides, sheets, and docs, right? So even though they're living in Google's cloud, I can click and drag and move these using my local folder structure. And now if I go back to the website, see where my folders are, there's my new client sample. It's already there. And the file's already there. So again, it's live. It's a live stream. It's sort of instant, and it moves right away. So Tony's asking, what setup is required to ensure everything is retained in the cloud, if any? When you start your G Suite account, and once you're logged in here on the web, you go into settings, and you get Drive for Desktop. Right, so once you click on that, it will walk you through. You install it. You tell it what folder, what drive letter to use. It's going to default to G, which is, makes sense because it's Google, so it makes it easy to remember. But you can use a different letter if for some reason G is already taken or whatever. And you're going to go through some basic settings. And then, of course, once you have this set up, you can download files to work with them locally. You can choose that certain files are going to sync locally to your computer so you can work offline with them and those sorts of things. So the, let's see, I'm just looking at the chat. The only MS product I like more than Google is Excel. Anyway, so that's the setup required. And by the way, speaking of sheets, and Matthew confirmed this for me recently, yes, there's Excel, the version that works locally on your desktop is still a bit more robust than Google Sheets. But as soon as you compare Google Sheets to Excel Online, it doesn't even compare. Google Sheets blows the doors off of Excel Online. And I went in there recently and posted in our Facebook group to Matthew saying, Matthew, am I missing something here, or is this like really bad? And he confirmed and agreed, and Matthew loves Microsoft. But he confirmed and agreed that, the online version of Excel is still extremely limited. There's a lot of missing features to it. I'm sure that'll change with time, but as of right now.
However, I do still like to say that Microsoft Excel is still better than Google Sheets.
Right, but we have to be clear that when we say Microsoft Excel, we're talking about the desktop version, not the version that runs in the cloud. So those are the different kind of document formats real quick that you have access to, and how to manage the files using Drive File Stream, right? And it's different than what Google Drive used to be. It used to be Google Drive worked a lot like, Dropbox or something, where it's really syncing the files between your computer and the cloud and other people's computers. But with Drive File Stream, everybody's accessing the files in the same location at the same time. And of course, the beauty of using the Google format is that we can all be in the same document, editing that document in real time. There's nothing to email back and forth. There's only the sharing, and probably worthwhile spending the last few minutes we have on the sharing options, right? Because this is where it gets really slick. So here's my test file. I'm going to go ahead and click the share button. And there's lots of options. The first thing I can do is I can add Matthew's email, right? So there's M. Fulton. Right, and if I add him, it's going to give him full edit rights by default. I can change that. I can say he can only comment or he can only view. But normally the assumption is if I'm adding him in that specifically, he, I want him to be able to edit. So join my revolution. Actually, let's say G Sheets revolution. All right, so Matthew's going to get the notification that I've invited him to join, and he's going to join with me. And you'll see, because he's going to have a different colored cell pointer once he's in. While we're waiting, I'll show you some of the other settings, because I can also just get a shareable link or click advanced, right? So if I go to shareable link, because this is G Suite in my domain, Nerd Enterprises, the default assumption is that initially I only want to share it with people who are at Nerd Enterprises Inc. That means they have to have a nerdenterprises.com email. So if I click this drop down, I can change it, right? And of course, within my organization, I can give them edit, comment, or view access. But if I click here on more, I can go public on the web, meaning anybody can access this document with no sign-in required. Or I can say anyone with the link, meaning they have to have the link. They won't be able to search and find it on the web. I can go back to only my domain. I can go back to only people in my domain with the link. And then I can, again, go back to the default, which is sharing is off other than specific people I've shared with, right?
Another cool trick when you're sharing this stuff is if you click on the other person's face, it will take you straight to the cell they're at. So
Yeah.
if you have a really long sheet, and you
Well,
have
let's show that in a second. Let me just finish on the sharing real quick. So access, anyone by default can view. I can change this so that anyone with the link can edit the document. Save it. And sorry, Matthew, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to finish on this because now we can show them. So go somewhere else in the document, and if I click on you, there it is. And it takes me, Matthew happened to jump down to row 147, and I can see clearly now this is Matthew Fulton. So Matthew, go ahead and type something so that in real time we can see why Google Sheets is better than Excel, because it does this. And Excel does it, but it doesn't do it as well, especially Excel Online. Nah. So again, really, really powerful collaborative capability. The same thing in a document. If Matthew and I wanted to work on an outline together, I can do the exact same thing. And Matthew can come into this Google Doc, the same thing. We can work on a slide presentation together. In fact, what I've done in some cases with this is I've collaborated it using Google Slides, and then you can always download it as a PowerPoint presentation. So it's very easy to convert these document formats too between the two worlds. I can easily drag and drop a Microsoft document into a Google Drive folder and then convert it to the comparable Google format, such as Google Slides. So this is sometimes again, because Google makes collaboration so much easier, we'll build something like a PowerPoint presentation in Google Slides, and then we can download it to PowerPoint, because still most conferences don't know how to deal with a Google Slide format, so they force PowerPoint on you. So now Matthew's in here, and again, you can see where Matthew is versus where I'm at.
Seth, one thing that might be helpful, because I have a nonprofit that I do work with, and I have everything in Google Drive, is we might have some financial information kind of upstream, and I make sure I set up folders so that anything downstream from that folder people have access to. But I'm just sort of, you might want to review kind of the access at levels, so that people make sure that they don't bring somebody in at a level where they have access to certain information that you might not want them to have access to, because
Sure.
of where they are in the architecture of Google Drive.
Sure, yeah. So for those of you who may not understand exactly what Kelly's talking about, what I've shown you so far are the sharing permissions with reference to specific files, but you can do the same thing in folders. So when you share a folder, you're sharing, of course, everything that's in that folder. So that's where you want to pay attention to the level of access that you're giving to people. So if you're sharing it with a specific person, as Kelly points out, if you give them full edit access, they can upload files there and download. If you only want them to be able to download files from a folder, then you have to give them view-only access, and they'll be able to sort of download but not upload. So a lot of times what I do with clients is I'll create a folder, called Client X Inbox, right? And what I'll do here is, just to keep it simple, is I'll go to the sharing options for this folder. I'll get the shareable link. I'll go to more. Anyone with the link can organize, add, and edit. And they'll only have that level of access in this folder. That makes it easy for them to upload files to me. And then, of course, once they've uploaded files, I can route those files to different folders and things. That's how I control, what clients have access to, and make sure that clients don't make a mess of things, because they have a tendency to do that. So, so Kelly, does that kind of address what you were bringing up?
Yeah, I think it's just so that everyone knows that from the folder level, anything that you have below that folder level, whoever's invited to that folder will have access to it on any, that's the main thing. Because sometimes we might want to drop, we might make a subfolder that might have more confidential information, and forget that we've actually invited someone to the higher folder level. So it's just to remember just to check through that process and make sure you don't have anything downstream that is confidential.
Yeah. And again, when you're sharing the whole folder in the settings, this is where you decide either they can only view it, or they can organize, add, and edit, right? So those are the two distinctions in terms of folder sharing options. And again, remember that if you go to share this folder with a specific person, the default level of access is going to be full access. So over here, you can change it before you send the invite to view only. So Yeah, and like Kelly says, just you have to be careful about what you've got in the folder that's being shared. And even a subfolder, if you don't do otherwise, it's going to adopt the settings of its parent, right? So if you have a parent folder that's got all kinds of people in it and a subfolder within that that you don't want everybody having access to, you have to go in separately and configure this subfolder's sharing settings, right? So this one you can just turn sharing off and only allow specific people and save. And then when you're in here, if there were specific people it was shared with, you'd be able to go to advanced and it would list them here. So I could remove people, because again, if it automatically brought in all the people who were shared with the parent, they'll come in here, but I can remove them so that then this subfolder is only accessible, you know, to the people that I want it to be accessible to. All right, and so that's kind of your quick deep dive on Google Drive and Google Docs and, you know, files and moving files around and sharing them in a different file format. So any questions? Not, then enjoy your social distancing. Stay home.
Excuse me, Matthew?